Okay, what will happen in the future? That's very important for me, I thinking, because they are telling us that will come next pandemic. They even call this new illness X. We don't know. There is a new agreement. United States decided to pull back from WHO, but United Europe is still in this organization, and they are now preparing us. We signed this international health regulation. My question is, what you can expect will happen in future pandemic? And I see that this pandemic can happen even in the next years, maybe even sooner.
Well, you have to remember that, the more virulent or lethal a virus is, the harder it is for it to spread. So if another pandemic happens like COVID, it'll probably be similar in intensity as COVID. Like we're not going to see Ebola spreading all over the world because Ebola is so lethal. So that should, hopefully make people feel a little better. And the people that died from COVID are the ones that had multiple comorbidities. So the biggest thing you can do to keep healthy is just manage your weight, because obesity was a huge factor dying from COVID. Obesity leads to diabetes. And you're much higher risk of infection and dying from infection if you're overweight and you're diabetic. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really care what the World Health Organization, says. And I sort of look at it as an individual issue. You find a doctor you can trust, and you manage your own health to the extent you can.
Well, I agree with you if this kind of virus is coming, but we are now facing that there was some kind of gain of function. That means they were made this virus, as we now know now. I haven't seen proof. I just see this information that coming that this virus was made in laboratory. How we can know that new virus will not be made in laboratory, new one who will not be respiratory virus, some kind of different who will be more lethal? How we know that will not happen?
Well, it probably will, but I'm not worried. I'm not scared. And I think, I learned a lot from COVID, right? You can prepare, you can stay, there are things you can do to stay out of the hospital. And I don't know how accessible is ivermectin in Europe, because ivermectin works not only for COVID, it works for any kind of RNA virus. It blocks the entrance of the virus into the cell.
Yes, I am in contact with Dr. William Makis, and he was my guest also, and he's treating cancer with ivermectin. I see his post every day, his cases, and he's posting, and also he said that it's very successful treatment for cancer. I never heard this before until last year.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of firsthand experience treating cancer patients with ivermectin. Because I focus on ENT, respiratory, and not cancer. But I believe him. I don't have the firsthand experience.
Well, you said we learned something from COVID. Usually, for example, when it's war, in a war, we find very much experience for a surgeon for special kind of wounds. And after that, we learn and we experience advantages for future of medicine. But from this pandemic, we are still not investigating what was happened and how we can learn and what we can learn from it. For example, in Croatia, there was demand from side of some politicians for parliament to make investigation what happened. And our prime minister said, look, that was emergency situation like our war 30 years ago. But after everything finished, nobody wants to investigate and nobody wants to talk about what we learned from it. Everybody wants to forget it. And this is completely crazy for me.
Yeah, I always call it a war too. I really do think it was a war. But it's interesting because it divides, most wars bring the country together against a common enemy. But this war divided everybody. Really, it was like a war, an external force that caused a civil war in each country. And you're right. Yeah, I mean, many of us learned a lot from COVID, but unfortunately, the government wants to just sweep everything under the rug.
Yeah, you said the right word. This pandemic divided people. My personal experience is same. I don't speak to my best friends before COVID because in this crucial moment, they decided that we need to mandate vaccines and passport vaccines. And then I stopped to talk with them because I felt that they are attacking my freedom of choice and informed consent. And they didn't agree about this. But as you said, we are now facing a divided society. And if the society stays the same way, if we don't clear these things from the past, everything will be in the future potential conflict, because still we are not forgetting what was happening during pandemic.
I agree. It's a festering wound, and festering wounds don't heal on their own. They just grow. I've heard people say, if this continues like this, it's going to lead to violence because they're just, people, the frustrations just build up.
And that is happening at this moment because now whoever suggests to take vaccine, for example, for flu or for pediatric vaccines, nobody trusting. And now we have really, especially on social media, I'm present there every day, we're seeing lots of tense, lots of arguing about, and even people who are worried now what will happen in any case of new disease, of new treatment. People still don't trust medicine anymore like before.
Agree. I mean, that's one of the most common questions I get asked is, who can I trust? Where do I go if I need to go to the hospital? I don't have a great answer about the hospital. I do think, in an emergency situation, you break your leg, you have a heart attack, you're probably fine. But for things like, respiratory, like what happened during COVID, it's best to just do everything you can to stay out of the hospital.
That's for sure, especially when we saw some doctors who are really acting, unethical. And some of them even said that people who didn't receive vaccine doesn't deserve medical care. Even they said, we don't care about people who are unvaccinated because they don't deserve, because they don't think on others. They are not members of society, responsible because they don't care about us. And this is totally unethical, and that destroying trust in medicine and in doctors, especially in Croatia. I'm feeling this every day.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we need transparency. We need accountability because, we have to find a way to restore the trust. And if they keep sweeping everything under the rug, it just makes it even worse.